Several celebrities came out in New York City in the, I guess you would say, the 11th hour to protest Donald Trump becoming the 45th president. Among them, the guy who plays Donald Trump every week on Saturday Night Live, that would be Alec Baldwin.
He is the second most famous Donald Trump.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. But Alec Baldwin made it very clear to us outside this protest how he feels about Donald Trump and what he's expecting in the next 4 years. It doesn't sound like he's, you know, we've heard a lot of celebrities lately saying, look, let's just give him a chance and maybe this can work out. I don't know. Alex trying, maybe?
Well, let's play it, but I have a different opinion than you do about this.
What do you think about the response today in New York City?
Well, I mean, listen, I think everybody realizes that it is what it is, and tomorrow we're going to have a new president, which is the system that we have, and here in New York, we want to try to make sure that we can protect innocent people. I mean, I think of Trump's policies as being very not humanistic in any way and helping and caring for people. I think if you live in New York, one thing you know about New Yorkers is that they're among the most caring people. They're very caring, protecting each other in this very confined space we live in, very crowded. And we need to stick together and try to take care of each other to overcome some of these federal policies, which I think are going to hurt a lot of people.
So see, I think he started out wanting to say, look, you know, we have to transition, and yes, he's going to be president, and I've accepted that. But then he just went right into, here's all the things that are going to be bad about him being president.
Man. I have such a different view of this. I think, honestly, of all the people I've heard, that is exactly the. If you are against his
that's
policy,
the right tone for someone who's against.
That is the exact right tone. What he said going in was, look, it is what it is. He is president. So he's not doing this thing where I'm not going to recognize him because it doesn't matter whether you are. He is the president.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He started out
I think he's very measured there.
He started out trying to be very positive, and then he went into how he really feels, which is, I don't like this at all.
Well, I got it. But see, that to me is the basis of America and democracy, that what he's saying is, I am accepting him as president, but I don't believe that his views are humanistic enough. And in New York City, especially where I live, this is a small town where people do care about each other, where there's a bond, and we need to be vigilant for ourselves. How can you put that better?
The reality is that it doesn't matter at this point whether you accept him or not. So,
well, that's what he's saying, but a lot of people aren't, Ben. A lot of people are looking mad at the wall.
I get it, but the fact of the matter is, in order to have progress now, you have to accept the reality that there is a new president. There is a new president. There's a new government.
But you're saying that, Van. But I think there are a lot of people, especially people in Hollywood, who don't want to go that far yet.
I don't know that. I don't know that they are.
They know the reality.
The reality is that
you think they're walking around thinking that Barack Obama's still president?
Right.
Even John Lewis is saying, I don't view him as a legitimate president.
Even John Lewis knows that Donald Trump is the president.
They're saying it, and I think Alec Baldwin hit the right notes here.
I think what Alec Baldwin is saying is that there is a president in office, and we understand that. However, what we have to do as citizens who don't agree with some of Trump's policies is be vigilant and understand that just because he's there means that we don't have to accept anything. And I think a lot of people say you should be accepting of everything that's going on now and just deal with the reality.
You're right.
But the reality is we don't have to accept anything because we're the American people and we have power and a voice too.
Garrett Williams here from Washington, D.C. And I think, Mayor de Blasio spoke about basically just completely disregarding Trump's agenda, which is obviously to deport a lot of immigrants, to have stop and frisk on the streets. These are things that are going to scare a lot of New Yorkers. And I think Alec Baldwin is basically saying the same thing. We're going to disregard that agenda. We're going to do what we have to do to maintain our quality of life and our way of life. And I think he's right. I think he has to do that.
Make sure to subscribe to TMZ Live to keep up to date on the latest entertainment news.
And if you want to keep watching, click on one of these videos right now.